your different time zones. Today is the most important session covering socio-cultural issues. We have very strong ties between Indo and Russia over the centuries track, back from Nafasin Nakitin to present day. For this great session, we have many young intellectuals, colleagues will express their views and thoughts. I warmly welcome to all of you for this technical session. Uh, Before starting this technical session, I would like to introduce Dr. Nancy. Uh, Nancy is a good friend of mine and is a part of the Eurasian Foundation. She is a sincere academician and she has authority on this subject. Dr. Nancy is now a faculty in the Royal College of Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. She has completed her MPhil and PhD from Center for Ocean and Central Asian Studies, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She was a recipient of the ICCR Fellowship, visited to Moscow State University, Tehran University for the doctoral work. And she has various publications and extensively work on Russia, nuclear energy cooperation, Russian bilateral relations with Iran, Africa, India, and other countries. She has very wide experience. Now, may I request Nancy to chair this session. Over to you, Nancy, please.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you. I would take this opportunity, first of all, to thank Eurasian Foundation for giving me this opportunity to be a chair for this technical session. It is a very important session, socio-cultural relation between India and Russia. And I would like to remember, with my fond thoughts of JNU. When I was a student of JNU, I was in the same platform of this Indo-Russia Youth Conference. As a student, now I'm playing a different role as a chair here for this session. And that is how, the journey with the Eurasian Foundation actually started. And I would like to remember fondly my own teacher, Professor Arun Mohanty, who was the founder of this Eurasian Foundation, who led a very strong relation between, particularly among the students with India and Russia. And this particular session, socio-cultural relations, last two sessions when you concentrated, it was mostly on the military and economic trade relations between India and Russia. We mostly concentrated on the hard power relationship between these countries. However, this technical session, which plays a very important role, which, as a soft power building relationship between India and Russia. And this soft power relationship, even in this new normal situation, is taking the relationship much, much forward because of the bondage which we created historically between India and Russia. Because the minute when you talk about India, our Russian friends, those who were in 50s and 60s, before the disintegration of the Russia, they fondly remember about the Rishi Kapoor's movie and Joker movie. I read about all these things, but I was able to feel the same thing when I visited Moscow in the year 2012. The shopkeepers recognized us and they said like, oh, from India. And they said Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan, Aishwarya Rai and all these things. And still you could see that, the bonding, it's still continuing. In this new normal situation, maybe because of the geopolitical situation, there is a lot of twists and turns in the country's relationship. However, the friendship between India and Russia, it's continuing without all these, in the international factor, which is playing an important role now. It is because of the values which we shared between these two countries. So this, in the same line, in order to keep the relationship growing or, make it much more stronger, this cultural relationship is very, very important. I would like to quote here the words of, Joseph Nye. He said, soft power has the ability to affect others to obtain the outcomes one wants through attraction rather than the coercion and payment. So it is the attraction which we have between Russia and India, in developing our relationship. So on those lines, this session becomes very, very important to know how this socio-cultural relationship is going to take further, a stronger position between these two countries to develop their relationship. And we have very young scholars to present their view about India as well as about Russia. And I'm so happy that most of our Russian counterparts have taken the Indian perspective of their presentation. They say in the research, when you have a third eye of the presentation, you will have a very objective research. So this objective research will take us further to develop this relationship between India and Russia. And this people-to-people contact is very, very important in this particular scenario. As we know, this new normal situation, we were able to face the situation because of the human nature which was there, which made everyone to think on those lines. So that is how we will quickly come out of the situation to continue our relationship much closer. So I won't take much of time of our research scholars who are eagerly waiting to present their paper. So may I request Subrat Maya to share his screen. I would like to point out certain important points to our presenters. Okay, so I've already finished my 2 or 3 minutes of our introduction because I don't want to take your much time. Each scholar will have 10 minutes, right? In this 10 minutes, you are expected to present 8 minutes, and the 2 minutes I will keep it for a question answer session, right? And I request all the participants in this forum to ask direct questions. Okay, maybe we can comment if the time permits later after all the presentation. Okay, so after each session, we will have a question answer session. So now Maya, thank you. You can stop sharing the screen. Thank you. So now we will move on to a presentation. So first I would like to call Rima Shri Bora. Miss Rima Shri Bora, you're there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you, Rima Shri Bora. And
Same here, ma'am.
Rima Shri is going to present our discourses and laws of LGBTQ rights, a comparative study of Russia and India. Okay, my best wishes, all the best. I hope you will follow the time. Okay, so that you will have a question answer session to answer your further explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Over to you. Thank you.
A very good evening to respected chair, organizers, and all the participants present here today. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Eurasian Foundation Deputy Director, Dr. Suman Swain, for giving me this opportunity to share my perspective and views on the topic of my presentation, Discourses and Law of LGBTQ Rights, a comparative study of Russia and India. The idea of sexuality and gender identity has always been contested across society and culture. The LGBTQ discourse has appeared to be an unimportant prospect of study and speculation. Therefore, the community at different junctures of history faced social exclusion and identity seclusion from the mainstream, social mainstream. However, with increasing liberal legislation and gradual enhancement of sexual minority rights, there is greater social acceptance of the LGBT community in the global scenario. The contemporary state and the legal structure of both Russia and India has also fostered cordial environment for the revival of LGBTQ rights and their status. However, the federal law does not absolutely prohibit discrimination of the LGBT community, as there are persisting lacunas in both the societies for which the queer community encounter perpetual resistance and inequality. Particularly in countries like Russia and India, due to blatant homophobia and prejudice, the scope for transformation in the position of the LGBTQ individual appears to be limited. Today, therefore, I will be talking about number one, the historical discourse of LGBT rights in both Russia and India. Number two, I will try to challenges put down by different agencies such as religion, law, and medicine. And we will observe how a corroborating universal human rights culture can help achieve equality for the sexual minorities in both the countries. Trappings of labels, identity holds an essence that is deemed to be natural. Category of sex, including gender identity, may not necessarily correspond to the binary of male and female sex alone. So is the case with an individual's sexual orientation, which cannot be confined to being heterosexual alone. Thus, orientation can be categorized as an essential choice and innate facet of privacy. And it is the right of every individual, including the LGBT community, to express their choices without the fear of state prosecution. While discourse of LGBTQ is largely framed under the idea of civil and human rights, plus equality and inclusiveness in every society, it follows a different pattern due to factors like the veracity towards non-normative sexuality, the socio-political attitude, regimes and draconian laws adopted towards the LGBTQ community time in history. While heterosexuality is portrayed as a normal and natural behavior, alternative sexual ideas at large are referred as abnormal, deviant, and immoral. What is more significant worth mentioning in context of Russia and India is that diverse sexual practices and is considered as a product of Western cultural influence. Soviet information created the impression that homosexuality is a vice of Western capitalism and that can be used against the communist state and proletarian humanism. Some scholars regard homosexuality as a post-Soviet phenomenon, while others see it as a sign of Russia's vibrant historical past. However, official policy towards homosexuality in Russia was inconsistent throughout history, ranging from tolerant and affirmative to openly homophobic and repressive. And same is the case for India. The evidence of same-sex love in Russia is found in the Kievan Rus period dating to 11th century, and the first attempt to regulate sexuality dated to 17th century under the reign of Tsar Alexis Nikolaevich shortly after 1645. This was further extended to the year 1835, where this regulation was outstretched to the civilian population as well, under the Article 995, which made homosexual relation a criminal offense. However, the turn of the century saw a relaxation of the laws and increasing tolerance and visibility. The October Revolution of 1917 did away with the entire criminal code, and the new Russian criminal codes of 1922 and 1926 eliminated the offense of homosexuality from the law under the leadership of Joseph Stalin. Lenin. The government under Joseph Stalin, however, recriminalized homosexuality in 1934, again under Article 121. By then, the LGBTQ individuals were exposed to violence and greater violation of their rights, to an increasing extent that transsexualism was diagnosed as gender dysphoria and homosexuality was attached to pedophilia. With the collapse of Soviet Union, sexual minority issue returned to the mainstream political and public domain following the glasnost policy of Mikhail Gorbachev. And in 1993, homosexuality between consenting adults was decriminalized, and in 1999, homosexuality was finally removed from the official list of clinical pathologies and mental diseases by the Russian Psychiatric Association. Since Vladimir Putin's accession to power, Russia has witnessed a rising tide of nationalist and traditional rhetoric with regard to LGBTQ rights. The Russian Orthodox Church in this regard has also expressed and endorsed the traditional conservative values promoted by the state. Besides this, in 2003, a new statute about military and medical expertise was adopted in Russia, which prohibited people of alternative sexuality equal rights to serve in the military. Likewise, in June 2013, the Russian State Duma passed the gay propaganda law, which is a classical example of political homophobia. The law was passed under the pretense that distribution of any information which evokes interest among children at forming non-traditional sexual orientation is a punishable offense. Therefore, in contemporary Russia, it can be perceived that Putin administration is not quite promising in supporting the LGBTQ community as well as advocating their rights. Indian culture, however, was much tolerant of same-sex relationships and transgender identity. But the culture and traditions were steamrolled by the Britishers under their guilt culture, which consider homosexuality as a sin and eventually a crime. In India, there has always been a place for people with different gender identity and sexual orientation. Indian history has shown no examples of prejudice against these people. For centuries, Hindu literature, mythology, and religious texts have featured deities that defied the gender binary. Hinduism, unlike most Western faiths, historically treats homosexuality as a natural behavior. This is the concept, there is the concept of Ardhanarishwara, from which is depiction of androgynous composite of Shiva and Parvati. Besides, Vishnu is clearly depicted in the faith as gender fluid, who frequently took on female avatar of Mohini. There is Shikandi from the great epic Mahabharata, which was said to be born female at birth but changed gender later. Another origin story for the Hijra comes from the Ramayana, where few of the Rama's subject in Ayodhya accepts the intersex way of living. The Badhai tradition of the Hijra community is said to have its origin from this time when Rama grants the Hijra the ability to confer blessings to newborn and family. Different architecture from the medieval times, like the Khajuraho temples, famously demonstrates the importance of sexual interaction within the Hindu faith. Including the cravings are a number of depictions of same-sex love. Queer subtexts are also evident in different chapters of the Kama Sutra, including several interpretations about sexuality. Besides,
Rima?
yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Your time, please. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to finish. Actually, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I prepared it for 15 minutes because it was mentioned. Yeah, that's why it's taking.
It is followed by our valedictory session. So we are sticking to our time. Can you try?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll finish it in 5 minutes.
Try to finish it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Besides this, non-traditional sexuality has its pretense in Rig Veda too, which defines Vikruti evam Prakriti, which means diversity is what nature is all about. In other words, what seems unnatural is also natural. Eventually, India's evolutionary history of LGBT is based on the constitutionality of a colonial law passed by the British administration in 1860. And this section 377 has dealt with much progressive legal pronouncement after all the setbacks in the famous 6 September 2018 judgment by the Supreme Court. Outlawing of Section 377 has conferred a promising environment to the LGBT community of India, endorsing transformative constitutionalism and progressive societal change for an inclusive and pluralistic society. To conclude, I would like to quote Eleanor Roosevelt, who played a key role in the drafting of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, has left us with these memorable words. I quote, Where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places close to home. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere, I unquote. Home is the focal point of human relations. It is here that a rich awareness and sensitivity to human rights, supported by a sense of realities of life, is fostered. I personally believe that laws are measures taken to fulfill the lacunas of human behavior. It is more of fixing damages in society and not transforming a situation at the root. Change in our individual perspective is where the solution to various problems lies. I think it's high time we accept humans as humans and not with any preconceived levels. Unless we build a society that regards human being not as a means to a goal itself, we will remain forever a society of discrimination, unhappiness, and inequality. As Tsuneso Makiguchi, a pioneer in the field of human rights, says, states should usher on the idea of humanitarian competition. To establish an egalitarian society, nations should enshrine human values and humanity as its highest ideals. And I really hope India and Russia both set an example in this regard and set better examples for the other countries in affirming the rights of human beings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rima Shri, for your presentation. Very meticulously, you brought out the historical perspective of Russia as well as India about your the presentation of the LGBTQ rights between how they are implemented in both the countries and how they perceive about their rights. Right. Thank you so much, and we will keep the question and answer session for Rima Shri at the end of the session. Okay. Because we will call the another presentation. It's already, the time limit has been crossed. Thank you, Rima. You wait. At last, you will have your question and answer session. Okay. Thank you so much, Rima. Thank you. So we have our next presenter, Raisin Nizar. Is Raisin Nizar is here?
Yes. Hi.
Yes, Raisin. Hello. Today, Raisin Nizar, she's going to present about Comrades Forever, analyzing the Indo-Russian relations, and she is from Central University of Kerala, India. Okay, all the very best, Raisin.
Thank you.
Over to you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Raisin B. Nisar, and my topic is titled Comrades Forever, analyzing the India-Russia relations in context to the cultural influence and soft power. I'll be very brief about it. Now, in forging links with India, Moscow had an opportunity for gaining regional power and its influence in Asia. The successive Indian governments had continued to engage in friendly relations with the Soviet Union and the post-Soviet Russia, and have been very supporting of the relationship, creating a positive psychology between the two countries throughout the decades. The socio-cultural relations between the two countries works more on the ground level, influencing and proving beneficial to both the citizens of the country. Now coming to the Russian soft power in India, it could be traced back to the historic Soviet model of economic development, which was based on the 5-year plan, which was adopted by the Nehruvian India. India and Russia had regarded the rapport between the two countries as an essential component of the bilateral cultural contracts, which is confirmed by archaeological findings, linguistics, ethnological research, etc. Prior to 1991, there had been abundant scholarly and cultural student exchanges. However, the cultural and educational ties between the countries have been a neglected aspect of the relationship and needs a revival for the once vibrant academic and student exchanges. Now, soft power by itself does not stand as a deal breaker in a bilateral relationship. However, it's a critical enabler for the scientific trade and military ties between the two countries. At present, however, there is only limited funding earmarked for the academic exchange in both countries, which could be an aspect to be focused on. Another aspect of soft power, which could be much more vigorous, is tourism. The Russian share of foreign tourists is the highest in the state of Goa. However, it seems to be at a diminish due to the negative publicity due to the pervasive role of the Russian and Israeli mafia. Now, a solution to this could be the spread of the Russian diaspora to the various parts of the countries, which is popular among the other foreign visitors. Advertising campaigns could prove beneficial to the public in Russia. 2018 was marked as a year of tourism between both the countries. Now, Russian literature and thinkers like Leo Tolstoy, Alexander Pushkin have had profound influence and contribution to the Indian literature and thought. The cultural and social influence of Mahatma Gandhi and the non-violence movement by Mahatma Gandhi was influenced by Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. The Indian political movement by Nehru was highly influenced by the October Revolution and Tolstoy introducing the socialistic feature in the movement. And Leo Tolstoy and Alexander Pushkin had profoundly, enormously contributed to popularizing this Indian culture in Russia. As part of the bilateral relationship, there have been significant cultural festivals and art exhibits in both the countries. There have been events of demonstration with the St. Petersburg Festival celebrated in New Delhi and Mumbai, and the Days of Indian Culture in Russia. 2008 was celebrated as the Year of Russia in India, followed by the year 2009 as the Year of India in Russia. Now we have the Russian Center of Science and Culture in India, representing its cultural and academic potential found in various parts of the country. The principal goal being disseminating objective information about the current developments in Russia. The center also promotes direct Russian-Indian ties in commerce and other economic fields of science, technology, information, culture, and education. Special attention is also paid to making the efforts comprehensive and seeking to attract members of the two countries of political, business, and academic communities. In 2015, Namaste India, a festival of Indian culture in Moscow by the late President Pranab Mukherjee, was organized jointly under the patronage of the Russian Cultural Ministry and the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, which was aimed at enhancing and boosting the cultural bonds that build solid bridges of friendship and understanding between the citizens of both the countries. Now, to brief about the Indian soft power in Russia, the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, along with the Ministry of External Affairs and Indian Embassy in Moscow, have had public diplomacy programs initiated. Another prevalent factor is the Indian diaspora in Russia, along with its organization, the Hindustan Samaj being the oldest in Russia, functioning since 1957. Other organizations, which are namely include the Indian Business Alliance, the All Moscow Malayali Associations, etc. The other soft power tools include the introduction to Hinduism, Buddhism, and of course, Bollywood, Ayurveda, performing arts, and yoga, which is also been embraced by Russia, also considered as an instructional course in various academic centers. Now, Russia's strong tradition of Indology studies had proved beneficial in teaching Indian languages like Hindi, Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, etc. The Indian literature too had its say in Russia, with the Upanishads and Vedas being quoted by Leo Tolstoy in his letters. And Rabindranath Tagore was known and loved even back in the pro-Soviet Russia. His poems were translated and republished in various parts of the countries on numerous occasions and actively promoted by the Russian symbolist. His work, Gitanjali, which had won him the Nobel Prize, was also published and cited by the Soviet government included. The partnership between the Indian media WION and the Russian media Sputnik announced has created an interactive platform for communicating cultures and consolidating partnership. Now, the use of soft power assets is aimed at supporting India's political and economic engagements with Eastern Economic Forum, the Eurasian Economic Union, regional connectivity initiatives, and cooperations with Russia's Far East. The 20th annual bilateral meet had India announced of the Act Far East policy and investment in Russian Far East, offering new opportunity to boost cooperation in various areas of the Indo-Pacific region. Now, to conclude, a little bit of history, the Soviet being the only country to listen to the India-Pacific 1971 humanitarian crisis, which had happened in East Pakistan, now known as Bangladesh, and the recent event of Moscow organizing a trilateral meeting for India, Moscow, and China in the context of the India-China conflict, along with the change in the political regimes that we have had in the country, there has been no change in the joint economic enterprises in both Russia and India, proving that the Indian-Russian relation is based on mutual interest and trust and has global significance because of their role in the international political system and in achieving global strategic stability, modernization, and the aim towards a democratic multipolar order. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rezin. You finished even before your time limit. Thank you so much for that. And you have very lucidly brought out all the points, like starting from the social aspect to the literature, and then bringing the importance of Indians in Russia and how the Russian poets and the Russian leaders played a very important role in influencing the factor in India, the leaders in India, bringing from the 5 years plans and all the aspects of touching from the 18th century onwards. So by this time, I also remember the Gogol's writing, like how it also, maybe we didn't have a exact, the readings of Gogol during this time in India, but still we had we could see that the influencing factor, which almost that period of, the age of Reformation, which affected almost every part of the world. And we also had such situation. And, thank you for bringing the Pushkin's idea. And even now, every institute of the Russian Cultural Center for Science, which is there in all the parts of the India, whether in southern or north and the eastern part of India, they all celebrate, the Pushkin Day. And I was also part of it, so I remember all this very fondly. Thank you for bringing all those memories back through your presentation. Thank you so much, Rezin. So,
welcome.
Well,
presenter is
Mrs. Nancy. Mrs. Nancy.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Nancy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I'm Professor Chereshneva, scientific supervisor of the Russian group of researchers who are to report today.
Oh.
I might say that the following reporter, Maria Chereshneva, has been fallen ill.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. Perhaps let me give the chance to listen the record of her report without video.
Yes.
Yes.
1 minute. I will just request my Sumant Bhaiya.
Yes, please.
Yes, Bhaiya.
Is it possible?
Yes, it's possible.
No? Yes.
Possible.
Yes. Thank you so much. And we are sorry that Maria could not be part of it.
Just a moment. Yes, it is possible.
Good day. I'd like to thank the organizers of the conference and to greet all the participants. I studied the political history of modern India and, to be more concrete, the figure of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel before and in the first years of Indian independence. Of considerable scientific interest is the problem of the role of the individuals in history, the place of statesmen in personality-oriented Eastern societies. The problem of state building is also relevant for any emerging state in the modern world, with its contradictions between the centers of power and the usage of hard and soft power. The world feels a deficit of large-scale, nationally oriented political figures corresponding to the megatrends of the 21st century. Political biography in the context of the partition phenomena of India and the first years of its formation as a new actor in the South Asia, analysis of the activities of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel are of theoretical and practical scientific interest. The purpose of my report is to give a general assessment of the political activities of Vallabhbhai Patel during the period of the creation of the Indian Union, of the first years of Indian independence, 1947-1950. My main propositions are the following. Patel's contribution to India is his proactive analysis of the historical situation in the country in late 1946, early 1947, and the forecast of the risks of complete disintegration of the country due to the aggravation of the intercommunal contradictions. The intention of Great Britain to transfer of power to the Indian political forces and leave Hindustan no later than in June of 1948, according to Patel, increased these risks with a low probability of achieving an inter-Indian consensus on the issue of the preserving the unity of the country in 1947, the perspective of transferring power to the provinces, balkanization, became quite real. Patel, earlier than other leaders of the Indian National Congress, recognized the need to divide India, but into two states, the Indian National Union and Pakistan, on the confessional basis, in order to keep the maximum possible territory of colonial India under the centralized administration after the British quit it. He managed to convince the Indian National Congress leaders and Mahatma Gandhi on the expediency of partition and for its speedy implementation, consent to the status of dominion. In the context of the communal war and the beginning of uprising in the Indian Army and Navy, this was a forced but rational measure. Patel's role in the integration of 565 principalities or native states contributed to the unification of the country. The gathering of principalities was generally carried out on the contractual basis. Their forcible coercion in the form of operations lasting from 10 to 108 hours took place in 3 native states. Sardar Patel, along with the top officials of India and Pakistan, bears his share of responsibility for the untimely organization of population transfer. It is partly rehabilitated by the belated provision of administrative control, interaction with the border troops in the settlement of religious clashes, and rehabilitation of refugees. One of Patel's achievements is the rapid and effective establishment of the foundation of the civil service, Indian civil service, and the Indian police service. The formation of the new administrative apparatus using loyal Anglo-Indian specialists prevented anarchy and criminalization of the situation in the country. In the preparation of the Constitution of 1950, Patel helped to establish in legal form the concept of a secular state, a democratic republic, while protecting the rights of religious minorities and a federal structure without the right of federal subjects to succeed from it. The conflict between Patel and Nehru was the difference between an idealistic concept of socialism or Western pattern and the national-oriented capitalism. The confrontation of Westerner and traditionalists, a reflection of the different approaches to the historical and cultural heritage of India, manifested since the formation of the Indian National Congress. The reasons for Patel's right-wing conservative rejection of separatism, communalism, and the communist movement in India in non-violent forms were his understanding of the cost of disintegration, the consequences of communal war, and the risks of state collapse. Patel expressed the interests of the Hindu financial and industrial circles, which, like the majority of the population, did not accept the concepts of abolition of private property, nationalization, state regulation of pricing and market. Patel was not an expert in foreign policy, but his pragmatic national-oriented approach and predictive calculations were of strategic value, and when the government followed it, India protected her interests. So my report is over. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Larissa. We missed, Maria Shereshneva presentation personally. At the same time, take care of her and our best wishes for the Eurasian Foundation and our other co-partners. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So Raisin, we'll keep the questions at last, okay? I'm going to the next presenter. We have Mr. Alexander Jepelau. Is Alexander Jepelau is here?
Follow. Follow.
Yeah, is there? Alexander Jepelau.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Alexander. Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Alexander is going to present religious and philosophical views of Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad. And he's from Lipstick State Pedagogical Seminar Shansky University, Russia. All the best, Mr. Alexander. Please go ahead with your presentation. And please, your time limit is 7 to 10 minutes. Okay, and at last we'll take our question answers. Your time starts now. Thank you.
My report focuses on the religion and philosophical views of a prominent figure in the Indian liberation movement, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Azad was born in Mecca in 1888. In 1819, his family moved to Calcutta. In his youth, he received a traditional Muslim education. In 1912, Azad connected Indians' largest party, the Indian National Congress. Since 1920, he has continuously been a member of the party's House body, the executive committee. He was twice elected president of Congress in 1923 and 1914. From 1947 until the end of his days, he served as the Minister of Education of India. Azad religions worldwide was the basis for his position on the methods of achieving Indians' independence, Indians' participation in the Second World War on the side of anti-Hitler coalition countries, and the solution of the religion and communal problem. Azad supported the revision of Islam teaching based of the Quran, called on Muslims to participate on the national liberation struggle against the mother countries. Was a proponent of secularization of public life, called for tolerance of other religions and recognized the unity of all humanity. Azad saw his goal as an attempt to introduce the Quran to the modern world. He believed that the main meaning of the Quran was lost under the influence of Greek, Roman, and Iranian civilization, as well as usually to the gradual decline in the level of Muslim interpreters. Azad indefinite three main ideas sought forth in the Quran. One idea is the only means to salvation is belief in one God and good deeds. A person's belonging to a particular religion and observance of rituals are not determining factors. Next idea, the Quran proclaims the unity of religions. The main goal of religion is to perceive the unity of humanity and never contribute to its separation. The truth revealed by God is one for all humanity. Next idea, true religion is the worship of one God without any mediation. Islam establishes that it is the duty of Muslims to refuse to recognize the authority of even an Islamic government if it does not give full freedom to the will of national. A true Muslim must ever perceive his freedom of do not himself. No other way is possible from him in accordance with his religion. The teaching of Abul Kalam Azad absorbed the best ideas of his time. From the Quranists, he took the idea of the need for a critical revision of Islamic teaching based on the main soul, the Quran. From Muslim national, the idea of the need for Indian Muslim to participation in the struggle for independence of India. From Muslim Reformation, the need for secularization of society. From Pan-Islamism, a unity trend that goes beyond the unity of people, of national, of religion grounds. The main factors of human unity were to be faith on one God, the need for a righteous life, and tolerance of other faiths. The religion and philosophical concept of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad can help in solving global problems that require the efforts of the international community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. You've also stuck to your time. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for bringing out the thoughts and secularistic ideas of Abdul Kalam Azad. And you know, you mostly looked him as a reformist and as a secularist, and which is a need of an hour to understand the Islamic ideas, in the, you know, with the thoughts of Abdul Kalam Azad. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Lyudmila Belisova.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello. To the policy of the Indian National Congress.
Okay, I could not see you. Yes. Okay, Ms. Belisova is going to present on the policy of provincial Congress ministries regarding political prisoners in 1937 to 1939. And she's a research scholar from Lipstick State Pedagogical Semenovo-Tian-Shansky University, Russia. All the very best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Floor is yours.
The Indian National Congress has been banned several times throughout its existence, and its leaders and members have been imprisoned. Again, the Congress and other organizations that opposed the British Raj amendments were made to the existing laws that gave the police enormous powers. Books and newspapers, political parties and trade unions were banned. Laws at the provincial and central levels were intended to stem the growing anti-British sentiment. After the Congress came to power, one of the first to demand was the release of political prisoners. These people were imprisoned after participation in Congress civil disobedience campaign. It is worth noting that many congressmen, including those who became part of the provincial governments, were also former political prisoners. In most Congress provinces, ministers were able to proceed with the release of political prisoners without opposition from governors. Jawaharlal Nehru noted the difference between the province where the Congress governments were established on the one hand and Bengal and the Punjab on the other. In both Bengal and Punjab, the power of the police and the secret service was fully retained, and political prisoners were not released. The statistics allow us to judge the work of the Congress on the release of prisoners, which began immediately after the formation of ministers. They provide information about the significantly increased number of released during the period from July 1st to September 30th, 1937, compared with the same period in 1936. In the fall of 1937, the Working Committee adopted the following resolution. The Working Committee welcomes the steps taken by the Cabinet of the Congress with regard to prisoners. However, there was much to be done to abolish repressive laws. During the first few months after the formation of provincial government, most political prisoners were released. In a secret letter dated December 15, 1937, the Viceroy of India, Lord Linlithgow, wrote to the Governor of the United Provinces, Harry Haig. I am glad that you have taken the line you have spanned over the release of political prisoners generally. Looking to the future, however, I feel that the wise course for us will to take a stricter view than we have in the past with the type of undertaking of good behavior which can be regarded as a satisfactory precedent to release. The government released the urgent need and was ready to make concession on the issue of the release of political prisoners. We can judge how important the issue of release of political prisoners was for the Congress by the events taking place in Bihar and the United Provinces. In early 1938, the governments of these two provinces decided to release the prisoners remaining in prison at a time. At the time, 15 people in the United Provinces and 26 in Bihar were eligible for this requirement. The governors replied that they did not consider it a necessary step to release these prisoners, some of whom were involved in terrorist activities. And then this issue was sent to the Governor General for consideration. He agreed with the decision of the governors and banned the release of the designated prisoners due to the fact that this could become a threat to the peace and tranquility of the country. In response, the ministries resigned, saying that they were unable to fulfill the election manifest. The precedent that arose was discussed in the British government. Some sought to empower the Indian provincial governments to exercise their legal power, including the release of prisoners, as they considered the Governor-General's decision to be correct. Labour Party member William Benn said on this issue, "We must do everything in our power to overcome the constitutional crisis, sign the special power of governors and our responsibility." To overcome the ministerial crisis, the British government decided to continue releasing political prisoners, but this had to be done gradually. In both provinces, an agreement was reached between governors and ministers that each case was to be considered separately before the release of prisoners. At the end of February, the ministers of Congress in Bihar and the United Provinces resumed their mandate, accepting the British condition. These events showed the determination of Congress to follow throughout on its campaign promises, even to the point of resigning from ministerial posts. At the same time, in the Punjab, political prisoners, including those repatriated from the Andaman Islands, went on hunger strike and appealed to Congress for help. In response to this, Jawaharlal Nehru noted in his interview that he could not help them with anything except to advise them to end the hunger strike. Since it is not yet time to resort to civil disobedience for the sake of political prisoners. This raised questions and he had to clarify his position in the following interview. "My sympathies are connected with political prisoners. I would like to be able to help them, and if I had something for this, I would use this opportunity without hesitation." This once again confirmed the existing difference between the provinces, since Congress could not have a serious impact on the governor and the government of Punjab. From the very beginning of the conquest of the country, the British authorities have chosen a policy of brutal suppression of all political action directed against the existing regime. Prisoners for political reasons were held in the worst conditions, and this situation did not change throughout most of British rule until the Congress came to power. It's important to note that many of the prisoners were not members of Congress, but their release was fundamental to the Congress as an assessment of the significance of the struggle against British rule in India. Congress has systematically followed up on the campaign promise to release political prisoners. The ministers have provided their readiness to follow the stated course to the end during the crisis, and been ready to resign. It's all. Thank you very much for your attention. It's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Lyudmila. Thank you so much for your presentation. And maybe finally, I'll also have one question. Why did you choose this topic? What made you interested so much in choosing this particular topic of, releasing the political prisoners? You can think about it and, answer me during your question answer session. And I would also like to add you some of the points, when you're concentrating on the political prisoner, one important aspect of this political prisoners during this release from the 1937 to 39, you have an important person called Yogendra Shukla from Bihar. Okay, try to concentrate on that particular person, because later on he would join the National Congress and he will be the founding member of creating the
Socialist Party in the Congress. Okay, later on you can add to your research. Thank you so much. You've done a great job. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Ludmila. So we have our the next presenter. So it's almost done. So shall we start the question answer session from Lyudmila, or we'll go back to Rimashri, and then we will start with the question. Lyudmila, you can relax for some time. We will start with
Nancy, actually we have some other speaker. One of the speaker is left. Kezlova Alexander.
That is what he presented, Bhaiya. Instead of Maria, her mother played a recorded video.
Oh, that one?
That was Maria Shereshneva. After her, Alexander presented. He presented on Abdul Kalam Azad.
Yes. The last one is actually Center for Indian Studies, Institute of Oriental Studies. Kezlova Alexander. She will talk about Indology in Russia, some reflections on studying Indian language. Yes.
Yes, Bhaiya, 1 minute. Sorry.
Yes, last one.
Yes, Bhaiya.
Good afternoon to all the participants.
1 minute. Yes, 1 minute. 1 minute. Kozlova Alexandra. Здравствуйте. Kozlova Alexandra, she's going to present on Indology in Russia, some reflections on studying Indian languages at Moscow State University. And Ms. Kozlova, Research Fellow, Center for Russian Indian Studies, Institute of Oriental Studies, Russian Academy of Sciences, Moscow, Russia. All the very best, Kozlova, and floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all the participants, and I thank kindly all the organizers for giving us all the opportunity to participate in this event. As we all know, the study of India in Russia has a long-standing tradition. Since the signing of the Declaration on Strategic Partnership between Russia and India in October 2000, relations between our countries have achieved a quantum leap in almost all spheres of cooperation, including politics, trade, defense, culture, science and technology, and so on. Around 300 registered Indian companies operate in Russia. The Indian community in Russia is numerous. Thousands of Indian students study in Russian medical and technical educational institutions. So the knowledge of Indian languages is useful for establishing contacts with Indian counterparts. Thus, the Hindi language is becoming more and more in demand in the field of politics and diplomacy, business relations, journalism, tourism. Relations with Russia are one of the paramount directions of India's foreign policy. Our country is seen as India's time-tested partner. The dialogue between the heads of the two countries is regular. For example, the meetings of intergovernmental Russian-Indian commissions in various spheres are held annually. In accordance with all of the above, the study of Indian languages is of vital importance for our side. The first Indological center in our country was the Institute of Oriental Studies in St. Petersburg, organized on the basis of the Asian Museum founded in 1880. Step by step, new Indological centers were created in Moscow. The Institute of Oriental Studies of the Russian Academy of Sciences, and the Institute of Asian and African Studies, affiliated to Lomonosov State University, and also in a number of other Russian cities such as Tashkent, Lipetsk, Kazan, Tomsk, Ulan-Ude, Samara, Ufa, and so on. Nowadays, about 20 Russian universities provide teaching Hindi and other Indian languages to more than 1,500 Russian students. Teaching of Hindi, Urdu, and Bengali is traditionally conducted at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations at the Department of Indo-Iranian and African Languages. The Russian State University for the Humanities teaches the Hindi language and turns out multi-skilled Indologists. I would like to dwell upon the learning process and to share personal experience of studying Indian languages and history at my alma mater, the Institute of Asian and African Studies at Lomonosov Moscow State University. At the present day, to my humble opinion, this institute is the leading Russian center for training specialists in Oriental studies. The Institute of Asian and African Studies, affiliated to the MSU, was founded in 1956 as the Institute of Oriental Languages, when a few departments branched off the Faculty of History and the Faculty of Philology. It was renamed the Institute of Asian and African Studies in 1972. Currently, over 40 Asian and African languages are taught there. Its graduates work for governmental and public organizations, the mass media, publishing houses, the Russian Academy of Sciences, in institutions of higher education, Russian and international companies. The graduates of the institute get a diploma in Oriental and African Studies with a specialization in philology, political science, history, and economics. A full-time 4-year bachelor's degree programs, 2-year master's degree programs in Oriental and African Studies are available, followed by PhD programs for those who want to carry on the research work. That was my case. Students study 1 or 2 Oriental languages and European languages. When I entered the university, I was assigned to the Hindi language group. There were 6 of us, 3 students from the Department of Indian Philology and the 3 from the Department of History of South Asia. For comparison, this year, the Hindi group consists of 10 students, 7 doing economics and 3 philology. Simultaneously, there also is an Urdu group of historians this year. Also, there are 4 Urdu and 4 Hindi students doing MA programs in political science and history respectively. At the second year of study, a second Indian language is added to the curriculum. Languages available for study at this university are Hindi, Urdu, Bengali, Marathi, Punjabi, and Tamil. According to the future specialization of a student, it is possible to learn other languages. For example, Sanskrit for specialization in ancient history or Farsi for medieval history. Our group was granted with the Bengali language in addition to Hindi. Apart from the fundamental MSc education, we were introduced to the culture of Indian region. At the Department of History of South Asia, we were taught fundamental courses in history, area studies, economy, political system, culture, source studies, and historiography of India and nearby countries. It was my good fortune to have Professor Vigasin, Professor Laev, Professor Safronova, Dr. Bachkovskaya, and quite a number of other distinguished scholars among my teachers. Thus, we acquired the knowledge of local realities in South Asian countries to understand the latest trends and tendencies in their economic, social, political, and cultural life. The curriculum includes internships in respective countries. Our department has been maintaining close ties with the Jawaharlal Nehru University. I dare say it would be great if student exchange would increase in the future, and not only with Delhi-based, but also with universities located in other states of India. Answering the challenge of globalization, we should strengthen the cooperation in the field of scholarly research and academic exchange with leading universities and scientific centers of India. So I guess that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Fuzlova. for sharing your personal experience with your great institute. At the same time, some of the students are raising questions in the chat how to, pursue their higher studies in Moscow, and your, the whatever your experiences you had in your institute, which also plays a very important role for the students also to pursue their higher studies in Moscow. Okay, thank you so much. And I also remember Mr. Alexander Dubyansky, who teaches Tamil in in the Oriental studies. I remember, and Tatiana ma'am is shaking her head. Thank you so much, ma'am. And he visited India 2 months, just before Corona, and he was here to address in one of the institute in south part of the Chennai, where he was part of the for the Tamil language. And one of his students, she is also working in Kanchipuram in the to study about the Indian temples and everything. They have a very fluent in their languages. I remember when I visited Moscow, the students who came to receive us, they were Tamil students. The minute I entered, they said "Vanakkam." I was so shocked to hear their words. They're very fluent in talking the language. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you, Gozlava. Thank you. So, Suman Bhaiya, shall we start with the question answer session? Shall we?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes. So, if anyone have a question, you can raise your hands, or you can just unmute yourself and raise your question. Please point your question towards the particular presenter so that they'll be able to answer. We can keep your comments and all the other, if you have anything to share, you can do it later, right? So we can start with the first presenter, Rima Shri. You ready to answer the questions? Can we have a questions? If you have any questions, if you want to unmute yourself, you can raise your question, or you can type your questions in the chat box. I can read it out there. So far, I did not see any questions. Anything you can ask?
Hello, I have a question for Ms. Belasova.
Yes, please go ahead.
First, I would like to give my brief introduction. I'm Ujjwal Sonkar. I've studied in Russia, and I'm a student of economics and Russian law. So I have a question for Russian law, and all Russian citizens are encouraged to answer. I studied in my course that in Russian federal law, Article 207, they have really strict process for countering extremism inside Russia. Like you cannot post anything related to religious extremism via online or like, share, comment or anything. And you cannot even print text or involve in such activities can lead you to from 6 years to 20 years. What are the views upon that? Some Russian citizens consider it that isn't it is restricting the freedom of speech and other things. So what are the views about that by our Russian citizens?
So anyone would like to answer this question of Mr. Yes? Anyone is interested in answering this question? Yes.
I believe it's not my topic.
It's not my topic.
Yes, no problem. See, those who are comfortable in answering, you can answer, or you can think about his question, you can answer later. I'll be very happy, if you could post a question directly to the topics of the presenters, because they were all young research scholars, right? And the young research scholar had put in their heart and soul to prepare for this particular topic, what they wanted to do it. And I would like to really appreciate each and every one, because they've taken the topic not exactly related to their own subject, what they are studying now. Okay, they've shown their interest in India, and they've chosen their leader whom they wanted to present. So if the questions related to them, the young scholar, they're all, mostly a final year students, and some of them have finished their post-graduation. So I'll be very happy if you could raise only such questions. Okay, Lyudmila, no problem. Yeah, yes.
I have another question as well.
Yeah,
I think in our country, India, in some places, there has been a lot of religious and ethnic instability. What are your views about entering it?
Whom do you want to post this question, Uzlav?
I think anyone who wishes to answer, because I don't know who
Again,
can.
again, you're just going beyond the imaginations of the students, because when you look at the topics,
So
right?
I would like to ask with Miss Mia Belasova, because she gave a really good presentation about Indian politics. So I would like to ask from her.
And Belisova, would you like to answer, or should I comment on his question? Belisova.
Can you repeat? Can you repeat, Ujjwal?
Yes, Ujjwal.
I ask you that in our country, India, in a lot of places, there has been political instability, which was certainly targeting religious and ethnic groups, and a lot of politics on the basis of religion. So, what are your views to counter this? What policies or what ideas should we imply to solve this problem in our India?
У них нестабильность
Belisova, no problem.
религиозных вопросов. Какие пути решения ты бы...
Can I just say a few words, Suman?
Yes, sir, please, sir.
You see, to all these questions,
yes,
the answer would be that, speaking against another religion, being extremist about one's own religion is not freedom of speech. Russia,
Yes.
India, they all allow freedom of speech. But when it comes to speaking badly about other religions, negatively about other religions, or using your religion for extremist purposes, they all stop. Not just Russia, but India also. And so far as ethno-religious issues are concerned, the only solution to them is because both constitutions are secular constitutions. They don't discriminate between ethnic and religious groups, neither Russian nor Indian constitution. It is adherence to this constitution. Adherence to this constitution of equality between ethnic groups and religious groups, that will probably be a long-term solution for this kind of issues. So, I mean, nobody can say what will happen in future because there are always extremist elements in societies. But the state should adhere to its own principle of not discriminating against any religion, against any ethnic group, against any language group. That is the best solution for maintaining our multi-ethnic, multi-language, multi-religious nature of our society. Thank you.
Completely agree with your answer, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Anyone have it?
Dr. Ansi.
Ma'am.
Permit me to speak with words.
Dobry wieczór, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, such kind of questions are understandable because India and Russia are two multi-ethnic, multi-religious countries, and we have a very long history of surviving and to settle such kind of problem. And of course, sometimes we know that in India sometimes happened some problems on the ethnic and on religious subject of discussing that. And I should say that it will not be truth if I say that in Russia we don't have. We have. I think that we have, as I can once again to pay your attention that we are both the countries multi-religious, multi-ethnic, and of course sometimes things are happening. I think that our colleagues also already mentioned that both of our countries has constitutions, the constitutions of Russia and constitution of India in their parts guarantee the equal rights of any ethnic groups and any religious groups. This is, if I'm not mistaken, we can read it in the Indian constitution and in the Russian constitution. But unfortunately, sometimes some excesses are happening. I think that is also the problem of economic development. And of course, if some group in the economic position are not very good, and the people suffering from the economic inequality, and in this case, of course, such kind of movements can arise, you know. And therefore, first, we should guarantee our constitutional rights in both countries. And we should pay special attention on the economic development of every group of the population. And at the same time, of course, we should give these people the equal rights in their education, in their economic position, in their way of life, and we should guarantee equal rights for everybody. And this is a few words which I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. And I would like to thank both the professors, Professor Ajay Patnaik and Professor Tatiana, for sharing the view from both India and Russian side. And even in this also, we are aligning with their values. Which value is that we have equal rights for everyone. Okay, whether they are multi-ethnic or multi-religious, the one equal right which wanted to give is respect the humans. So this they brought it out today, and thank you so much for that, bringing that into a limelight and sharing with the young scholars who are going to take these ideas forward by building a relationship between India and Russia. Thank you so much, sir and ma'am. Thank you, thank you. Shall we go for another question? Anyone have a question to ask to our presenter? Or else, Sumant Bhaiya, I could not see any questions in the chat box. Should I conclude so that we can move on for our valedictory session with a 5 minutes break?
Yeah, just conclude. I will just have few words for this. Then
yes, Bhaiya. And as we are running short of time, I would like to thank each and every participant from Indian universities as well as the Russian university for bringing out their thoughts regarding the social cultural relationship between both the countries. It is mostly important that this soft power is going to take the relationship to the higher level of cooperation. So I request all the participants to take this forward from each side, whether from India or from Russia. And I wish all the best for all the participants. And I also take this opportunity to thank all my professors from JNU, as well as for my, they are also our teachers from Moscow State University, where we visited, or the Migimo University, or Oriental University, or the Lomonosov University. And I wish all my teachers happy Teachers' Day. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Nancy, for sharing very wonderful session, really giving a very comprehensive view on Indo-Russian sociocultural relations. Thanks to all our young paper presenter, and they presented their thought for strengthening the bilateral ties. Thank you to all our delegates who actively participated in this session. Thank you so much. Now we are going to end our technical session. After 5 minutes, we will resume our valedictory session. Please request to log in the same login ID after just 2-3 minutes. Thank you so much. So nice.